My name is Piper, and I am 29 years old. The night my life cracked open was supposed to be simple. Warm lights, polished glasses, a long dining table, and a cake tall enough to make a statement. It was my birthday dinner, the kind my mother insisted on hosting every year. The kind where appearances mattered more than feelings. Family friends filled the room. My sister lounged comfortably with a glass of wine. My father sat stiffly at the head of the table, and my mom stood when it was time for speeches, tapping her spoon against crystal, like she was about to announce a promotion instead of a betrayal. She smiled, the kind of smile that never reached her eyes, and said loudly so everyone could hear. At my 30th birthday dinner, my mom announced, "Time for the truth. You were never really part of this family. We adopted you as a tax benefit." The room went silent, then fractured into gasps. My sister laughed. My dad said nothing. I felt my heartbeat thud against my ribs like it wanted out. I didn't cry. That surprised me. What shocked me more was how calm my mother looked, as if she'd been waiting years to unburden herself. She kept talking, explaining deductions and paperwork, telling a room full of people that my existence had been a line item. I watched faces turn toward me, pity, curiosity, hunger for drama, and I realized something important in that moment. This wasn't about truth. It was about control. My sister's laugh cut through the quiet like a knife, sharp and rehearsed, and my father stared at his plate as if silence could make him innocent. I stood up. Chairs scraped. I felt taller than I ever had, steadier too. I reached into my clutch and pulled out an envelope I'd carried for months, sealed, heavy with answers. My voice didn't shake when I said, "Funny. I have some truth too." The words hovered in the air, daring anyone to stop me. My mother's smile faltered for the first time, just a twitch, but enough. She knew that look. She'd seen it before when deals went bad and leverage disappeared. I hadn't always suspected something like this, not in words, but in patterns. The way my mother corrected how I laughed, how I stood, how I existed, the way my sister inherited generosity while I earned scraps, the way family photos framed everyone else at the center while I stood at the edge like a borrowed prop. Years ago, I started asking quiet questions. I pulled records. I followed threads. I learned how to listen when people thought I wasn't paying attention. And when I found the truth, I didn't rush to confront it. I waited. I prepared. I sealed it into that envelope and promised myself I would open it only if I had to. The party pressed in on me now, a circle of witnesses I hadn't invited but would use. I could feel the weight of what I was about to do, the way it might shatter the careful story my mother told about herself. She'd wanted a spectacle, a moment where she stood powerful and I shrank. Instead, she'd handed me the stage. My sister's laughter died down, replaced by confusion. My father finally looked up, his eyes flicking from my face to the envelope like he already knew what it contained. I thought about my childhood, the rules, the unspoken debts, the way love was always conditional. I thought about the nights I studied late, the jobs I worked, the independence I built brick by brick because I never felt safe asking for more. I thought about how my mother loved numbers and outcomes more than people, and how she underestimated the one person she believed owed her everything. The envelope felt warm in my hand now, as if it knew this was its moment. I didn't open it yet. I let the silence do its work. Let the room lean forward. Let my mother's confidence drain as she realized this wasn't the victory lap she'd imagined. I met her eyes and saw fear flash there, real fear, because whatever I had, it threatened the foundation she'd built her life on. I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I was ready. Ready to tell the story she never expected me to know. Ready to reveal the part she'd buried under paperwork and excuses. Ready to prove that if I was adopted for tax benefits, then she had made a far bigger mistake than she realized. I slipped the envelope back into my clutch, just for a moment, and took a breath. This was only the beginning. I pulled the envelope out again, slower this time, letting everyone see it, letting the weight of it sink into the room before I spoke. Because some truths don't need to be rushed. They need witnesses. My mother straightened her shoulders like she was bracing for impact. But her eyes kept darting. Calculating exits, recalculating power. I said clearly, so there would be no confusion later. At my 30th birthday dinner, my mom announced, "Time for the truth. You were never really part of this family. We adopted you as a tax benefit." My sister laughed. My dad said nothing. I repeated her words back to her, and watching her hear them reflected was like watching a mirror crack. Then I continued. I stood up, pulled out an envelope, said, "Funny, I have some truth too." That's when I opened it. Inside were copies, clean, undeniable, of documents I'd spent years gathering. Adoption records that didn't match her story. Amended filings that showed my name being moved like a pawn. Trusts created and dissolved without my knowledge. And a trail of signatures that told a different truth. I explained it plainly, because drama wasn't necessary when facts were this sharp. I told them how my adoption wasn't for compassion or even convenience, but for leverage. How my mother had used my identity to funnel money through shell accounts. How deductions were claimed twice. How benefits were stacked illegally. How my name had been attached to liabilities without consent. I told them how I discovered it when a bank flagged an account I didn't open. How one question led to another. How silence from my father answered everything. The room shifted. People leaned back. Forks clinked. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" My mother tried to interrupt, but the words stuck in her throat. I kept going. I told them about the audit notice she'd hidden, the letters forwarded and shredded, the lawyer consultations she thought. I didn't understand when I overheard them years ago. I told them how the envelope also contained a letter, dated months earlier, confirming that everything I'd found had already been reported, not by me, but by a compliance officer who noticed irregularities too big to ignore. I said it softly, because softness can be crueler than shouting. The investigation was active, the clock already ticking, and tonight, this spectacle would be added to the record. My father finally spoke then, just one word, my name, but it was too late for apologies. My sister's face drained of color as she realized the inheritance she'd always assumed was untouchable was suddenly a question mark. My mother stood abruptly, chair scraping back. She accused me of betrayal, of ingratitude, of trying to destroy the family. I didn't argue. I just said the line that ended everything. What I revealed next made Mom leave her own home. Because when she realized this house was listed as collateral, in one of the accounts tied to my name, when she realized the walls she'd curated were built on documents that could now be unwound, she understood something she'd never considered before. She was standing on my signature, on my silence, on my patience, and both were gone. Guests left quickly after that, excuses spilling like dropped pearls. My mother grabbed her coat, hands shaking now, not angry anymore, afraid. She didn't look at me when she walked past, just headed for the door as if the house itself had rejected her. My father stayed seated, older somehow, smaller, staring at the table where the cake candles had burned down to wax stubs. My sister followed my mother out, muttering about lawyers and misunderstandings, but her confidence never returned. When the door closed, the house felt lighter, like it had exhaled after holding its breath for decades. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. Finished carrying a story that wasn't mine. Finished being a footnote in someone else's accounting. I gathered the envelope, now empty of secrets, and tucked it away. Later I would move out, quietly, cleanly, without asking permission. Later, I would build a life that didn't require proving my worth. But that night, I stood in the silence and let it be enough that the truth had finally chosen me. If you stayed with me through this story, through the betrayal, the envelope, and the moment everything changed, then you already understand why stories like this matter. Subscribe to the channel for more real, powerful stories about hidden truths, quiet strength, and the kind of justice no one sees coming.